Alright guys, so Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD got a major update in March that, just when we thought the mod was dead and development wasn't continuing, added a lot of bug fixing, some unit roster rejigging, especially on the Nicaean Byzantine side of things, but lots of other factions as well. It's a great little update. If you haven't checked it out, now is a great time to do so. But since then, I've been thinking about 1212 AD's development. How are things going? Why is development so slow at the moment? How are the naval unit rosters, the map expansion, custom city models, all of that? How is it going? I've been wondering, and lo and behold, I was actually sent a new interview by a YouTuber called Smalgogo and a French modder on the team called Pierre, and they go through a lot of interesting details about current development, the future plans of the mod as well, and how we can help them. So today, I'm going to condense this 33-minute interview into the next 10 minutes, going through the most important sections of what I think is really interesting and give us a little hope about how Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD is going. So diving straight into the interview, there are various sections here going through, custom cities that they're building, the naval unit models that they're working on from scratch, and other bits as well. But the first thing I want to go through is this on your screen. It's a Q&A that the YouTuber sent the modding team about how the current team is, what they're working on, and how the mod is going, right? So this is what I want to go through first. So starting at the top here, how many are you in the 1212 AD team currently? There are around 10 active members, including Pierre, which really makes a lot of sense. I mean, development has been quite slow in the last couple of years. We've had members go in and out, lots of active development in periods and very passive development in others. And of course, you've got the map expansion on the horizon as well. So lots of really slow pace, and 10 active members makes a lot of sense to me. They probably could use a lot of help as well. Question 2 goes into the development priorities of the next update, which is quite cool as well. So we've got lots of bug fixes and small rebalances, of course, but there will be experiments with Spear Wall, which is quite cool. And in terms of major updates, the next update will have Swedish unit rosters incorporated and tier 1 ships. So that's kind of going into, there's a section going into later in this interview, actual 3D models and the coding behind it and how that looks at the moment. It's really interesting, but this at least confirms that the next major update coming to 1212 AD will finally have naval units of tier 1 ships for all cultures and all factions. Speaking of major updates, where is the development of the new map? So they have been working on expanding the map of Attila, the Grand Campaign map. However, there are areas previously unplayable in the Attila GC map that haven't got tiles. So this is essentially about the kind of like map modding tool that the Dauntless Days team have developed. They're using that tool to add new tiles, new areas to the Grand Campaign to expand it. So those areas will be South Norway, Central Sweden, Northwest Russia, Southeast Ethiopia, and Transoxiana. And they need to build out these tiles into these new areas to incorporate battle maps. I think they mentioned in the interview that at the moment when this releases, the battle maps for these areas will be generative in terms of, certain areas will have a rotation of 3 maps at any given time as a placeholder until they get their own custom battle maps ready. And they don't actually mention whether this map expansion will be in the next update or not. So while maybe a slim chance, there might actually still be a chance that it will be in the next major update of the mod. Finally, in this section of the Q&A, I just have to mention that there is apparently an effort to see whether the last Roman DLC, which if you don't know about is a bit more Italian, North African, and Western European focused, actually might be able to be converted into an Italian Wars campaign, which is, something they're probably planning in the kind of distant future while they're still working on this map expansion and naval unit rosters, etc. But still, it's really interesting to see that they're playing around with other campaign ideas as well. Where is the development of the mechanics of Italian commercial cities? Which is another good question, because if they're doing a Italian Wars campaign, that would tie in really well into that for merchant republics and naval warfare all coming together. No meaningful development though, apparently. Their coder, Debt Trooper, is currently busy and he's occupied with the map expansion as well. So mechanics for Italian commercial cities, definitely something I'd love to see, but nothing too soon just yet. The next couple of questions are very valid. Obviously, how many unique cities are on the mod and how many unique cities are ready currently, but this is being done by another modder, Gearhawk, and he hasn't answered this question just yet. Battle maps I know are being heavily worked on the western side of the map at least, to be released very soon, but the eastern side is still kind of being worked on very slowly. Obviously, Pierre, the modder, is doing that as well, so lots of still in progress work to be done in terms of unique cities for the mod. And then further down in the Q&A, we've got where is the development of the Jihad mechanics? This is something that's been on the Trello board on the list of priorities for the mod team for a long time now. And there is a really in-depth answer here that I really like. Lots of historical context here. So Jihad mechanics will be in the mod eventually, but it won't be similar to Medieval 2 at all. Muslim versions of a crusade is not what we're going to be getting. It's going to be much more of a kind of like a sliding scale of strict Sharia adherence versus pragmatist interpretation of the law, right? So there's going to be very interesting Muslim mechanics, kind of like a college of cardinals, hopefully representing various different kingdoms and their representatives in terms of unique characters and how they all contribute to a pragmatist interpretation versus a strict interpretation of the law, and how Muslim kingdoms go to defend each other and themselves versus Western crusades and each other. Actually, Muslim kingdoms going to war against each other can be considered a form of jihad as well. So it's a lot of interesting, historical, authentic kind of approach to how this mechanic is going to work. And we don't know when this is going to be in the mod just yet, but at least there's a really nice, interesting explanation for how it will work when it is here. And then in the next question, we go into a little bit more detail about naval units being added in the next update. So the addition will be incremental. Tier 1 13th century naval units first, then the rest will follow in further updates. And what they want to do is emphasize that ship design changes throughout the medieval era. Therefore, each tier will have different ships that represent the technological advances and design trends of that time. And all of this, to be honest, is music to my ears. This basically means that we're not just going to get a blanket addition of naval units across every culture and region. They're all going to be the same. No, across every culture, we're going to get unique naval units to represent them. And within those unit rosters, we're going to get unique technological advances that changes the design trends and represents the time period authentically and historically accurately. That is just so great to hear. And then this next section is absolutely huge, and it goes into unit roster modifications for the mod. And to be honest, I'm just going to skim through this because I believe that MK1212, for a large majority of it, has unit rosters complete. We do know from this that they're working on Oman and Yemen and more Arab unit rosters. We know Ethiopia and Sudan, so Makuria and Zagwe, all these areas are going to get big updates. And of course, they have the rework for the Nordic factions, Rus and Georgia, all of that areas as well. Lots of interesting detail here. But overall, from a unit roster perspective, I think MK1212 is in a very good place already. And then the final question here is about modding tools and whether CA actually makes it difficult for them. And basically the answer is no. I'm not going to go through a lot of detail here. They've got the tools they need to make the modifications that they want. RPFM, the independent tool developed by Frodo, the modder, not Frodo, the ring bearer, and of course the tool developed by Dauntless Days and their campaign map customization, etc. All of that really helps to further the development that mods can make to these games now. So modding tools are in a very good place. And then finally, guys, I just want to go through some of the visuals that are displayed in this interview. Pierre is mainly a custom city modeler at the moment, and he's building custom cities from scratch. He's already completed the city of Accra, which you can download as a submod. So I've dropped a link down below in the video description. You can go in there, download it, and try it out for yourself. It's an absolutely stunning looking city. He's actually showed here a section where he goes through how he's developed it as well. Rounded city walls and turrets and different sections and flags and all that. It's a really beautiful looking city, so you can go in there, check it out for yourself. And he's actually showed the city of Jerusalem as well, where he's created a unique Dome of the Rock. He's overlaid a landscape of the city and how it's going to look roughly when it's finished, the different avenues, the different building placements and courtyards and minarets as well. Really interesting looking battle map here. And then also there's a section section where he goes into the 3D modeling of naval units. Now, this actually just displays the Attila vanilla naval units, but you can see, for example, different sections of these ships and how they're going to be modeled differently to implement into a medieval era, how they're going to be broken up into 3 pieces to represent the destructive animations as well. Some really interesting sections of this interview going into naval unit modeling. So really, really cool stuff here as well. And that's essentially it for today, guys. Lots of interesting details here about mod development of MK1212. Things are progressing. There is another major update, hopefully on the horizon this year, that will have tier 1 naval units and Swedish rosters all incorporated. Lots of really good info about the jihad mechanics and, you know, map expansion work, how all of that is going. It's a really good interview. If you want to actually watch this, I've dropped a link to this video in the video description down below as well. Last thing I want to mention here before finishing the video is this mod needs help, guys. There's only 10 people here working on this in their free time. Real life happens, you know, map expansion is taking the bulk of their priority and efforts, and they could really use as much help as possible. So if you got the skills, the experience, if you're willing to learn the ropes as well, go into the Discord. I've dropped a link to that as well in the video description, where you can go into the application channel and let them know essentially that you've got something that you can contribute. This is what you want to apply for, and you've got the time as well. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, give it a like and drop any thoughts or questions in the comment section below. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts about the current development progress on MK1212, and I'd love to see you drop into the Discord and lend them a hand as well. Subscribe to the channel for more Total War content, Medieval Kingdoms 1212 AD news, and general mod news and Total War news as well. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.